Thanks, Gillian. Wow, what a panel conversation that was. I'm super happy I'm not up here on my own, and the Minister joins me. And certainly back here. Obviously, I did it right the first one because no one hooked me. So we'll have a go at this panel session. Real pleasure to be here. Once again, acknowledging the traditional owners, the land on which we meet and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm really fortunate in my job. I get to work with this gentleman very, very regularly and really, really value that. He's a great supporter of tourism, but very passionate about all aspects that we tackle. Minister, great to be here. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I wasn't really prepared for the Premier sharing that news with everyone, but it's easily accessible information, so you should have all done your homework, shouldn't you?
Yeah, it got a little bit awkward earlier when I shook your hand, but anyway, we'll move on. Now, Minister, obviously hosting Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympics, and I guess I'd just make the point, and I'm guilty of it as well from time to time, it's very easy to lop off the Paralympic component, and as we heard earlier, the Olympics are purely a warm-up for the Paralympics, so I'm always conscious it's the Olympic and Paralympic Games, but great opportunity for the whole of Queensland and Australia. It'll boost economies, create jobs, attract investment, but particularly for Queensland, market the state as a global tourism destination. Before we get into our discussion, I thought we'd just set the scene with a bit of a video. So we might play the video.
Every beautiful Queensland sunrise brings us one day closer to a defining moment for our state. 2032. A generational opportunity for all of Queensland to shine, and through the legacy of the Games, shine on. Brighter. Bolder. Triumphant on the world stage. Together, we're building our future, paving a green and gold runway to success. We're getting ready to greet the world with our iconic spirit, warmth and optimism, promoting an inclusive society and celebrating a cultural heritage like no other, inspiring the dreams of today and the champions of tomorrow, and creating new opportunities for business, social and economic growth that will benefit all of us. From the cities to the outback, the coast to the islands. All Queensland, all in. For 2032 and beyond.
Minister, we've seen that video a couple of times. It always impresses me. What does it do for you? What does it encapsulate for you?
I think it's a great mix of, it's got those goosebump moments of the anticipation and opportunity that it represents, but it also, there's a few people I've got to know through this role that I see in that and have known before in that production as well. But it really does highlight that this is all ahead of us and all the opportunities lies with everyone, and indeed that the opportunity to get the most for our community, for our economy, for our society out of this opportunity to have the world's biggest event come here is not just a matter for government, whatever level of government that is. It's a matter for business, for everyone in the community, for everyone to lean into and identify how they can play a role in maximising that opportunity, both from individual or a corporate ambition, but also for what we can achieve for the whole of our community as a result.
Absolutely, and we've got the slide on the screen there now, and if we go back to 2019 when the original report was done on what the benefits of hosting the Games would mean for the country and Queensland. Obviously those numbers are 2019 numbers. No one's been brave enough yet to forecast how much they might grow by due to inflation and other matters. But Minister, you know, for you, they blow me away. They're big numbers. What do they mean to you?
Yeah, I guess the big figure that I've used a number of times that you refer to as being those 2019 numbers are that $8.1 billion worth of total benefits to Queensland's economy. And you're talking about Queensland alone. You take that out to the total benefits across the whole of Australia, and it's $17.6 billion. But the thing that I think that underplays, doesn't expand and understand is really look at the $4.6 billion of benefit for Queensland out of the economic benefits, the direct economic benefits, which really strings really strongly down to tourism and trade. And the opportunity, as we heard earlier today, that profiling of Queensland globally as a consequence of hosting the world's biggest event takes us to another level of exposure and understanding and opportunity in the lead up to and then beyond the Games, and that's what these figures seek to encapsulate. But when we even look at just for that moment in time, in terms of the visitors wanting to come to the event in 2032, all of the modelling, all of the all of the research suggests that 50% of those visitors are going to spend much more time than just coming to the event. They're going to want to come before and then come after again. They're wanting to extend their stay during that time as well. So there's huge opportunity, and it isn't just hanging off the event, it's hanging off all of the experiences that you have the ability to deliver and share with people coming from across the globe and people who are going to accentuate their experience from within our own country.
And an aspect of that, of course, is, and often forgotten, those figures are out to 2042, which is, I think, a lovely segue by me. You can see I'm growing into the role. As we now move into the actual strategy itself, and just having a bit of a chat about, what's been done to date in terms of the development of this legacy strategy. I think I wasn't in the room when they decided who would have leadership of this within government, so I got it. And then was asked to do it across all those Games delivery partners there on the screen. Australian Government, Brisbane City Council, City of Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast Council, Council of Mayors, South East Queensland, Australian Olympic Committee, Paralympics Australia, Brisbane 2032 Organising Committee. Minister, I'm relieved and proud that we've seen that strategy released. You've obviously been the lead on it on behalf of us all. When I look at that list of groups, two things spring to my mind. What an amazing cohort, and my goodness, they're going to bring some influence and outcomes. But how are we going to get anything done with all those partners? So, Minister, what's your thoughts on that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think 2 weeks ago, or not quite 2 weeks ago, we released Elevate 2042, that Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games legacy strategy. So it is a high-level document, but a high-level document that has had extraordinary input and engagement from a huge range of people through an extensive process. And the wrangling, and I'm using that word deliberately, the wrangling of getting all of those different Games delivery partners working together with us, working together to help deliver and come down to a strategy that they could all sign up to and agree on, has been challenging, but has ultimately been really, really satisfying, because we've been able to get a shared commonality. And you all know, after 17 years of public life, I'll agree that it's not easy to get 3 levels of government to start with to agree on something. But to get 3 levels of government, other community partners, and a diversity of those sorts of partners as well, to come together and agree on an outcome and agree on what the aims are, and then set the environment to then have that ongoing engagement, it's really exciting, and something that we should all be pleased in this room to know that there's a really strong alignment with the ambitions that there are in this room around what we can do with our visitor economy. Yeah,
absolutely. And all jokes aside, that group has been remarkable in taking this, in helping us all take this forward. Now, you touched on the engagement process, Minister. probably one of the most significant and robust engagement processes I've been part of. We had the Hopes and Dreams survey, we had the Legacy Forum, then we had the Legacy consultation paper, all of that with heavy consultation with the general public, among others. What are some of the key outcomes from that consultation process that really hit home for you, Minister?
Well, I guess the concept that we were able to, through the inputs of those processes at different stages, accrue more than 14,000 specific suggestions as to what legacy could be for from the hosting of the event. And these weren't just flippant sort of one-off things. They were genuine, well considered, thought through concepts. So the working through of those, the opportunity to engage with them. But the thing that was the most extraordinary through the whole of that process, and a real highlight I've got to acknowledge, was the Legacy Forum in March this year. And there are a number of people who are in this room who contributed to that process. That really helped use a key set of people to distill those 14,000 suggestions and identify where the huge levels of commonality were. And that was the thing that was the most reassuring through this process, is that everything that we've done along the way, a lot of it has been finding how there was a shared vision around what was important and what the values that we wanted to represent and articulate to the world were. And I think ultimately getting to the final stage of getting agreement from all of those partners, and ultimately the ones that weren't, the games delivery partners had to tick off on that on the last slide, and then share it with the International Olympic Committee and the International Paralympic Committee, because part of the final step of process to get the endorsement of having any association with the five rings or the Altos has got to have the tick off from those groups. Was that they could see that this was a great representation of what we'd want to do. And in fact, we've had the feedback from, in particular from the IOC, saying that this is by far and away the best legacy document that's ever been produced associated with an Olympic or Paralympic Games.
They did, and I wrote that down, and it's on my wall. Minister, the result of all this great engagement and consultation, we get to a framework for transformation, leaving a lasting legacy, not just for Queensland. We had to contemplate, as we led this piece of work, for Australia. Then we had to contemplate for Oceania as well. It's quite broad. Can you give us an outline of those key elements of the strategy?
Well, you see, there's a great pictogram that's on the screen there that does highlight what we did see through that commonality and that refinement of the process and consultation, which kept coming back to shared values and commitments and important things. In the bid process, as part of our bid to the international bodies, our commitment to wanting to use the hosting of the Games as a vehicle for respecting, advancing and celebrating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples was strong. Equally, advancing accessibility and empowering people with a disability was very strong in our presentation. So the fact that they became foundational, and that's why they're represented by being in the band. They sit through and the band around the edge of that illustration. They permeate every aspect of the things that we're wanting to do in relation to delivering a legacy for our community. That was sort of understandable, but the way in which the community absolutely endorsed that, because our bid process wasn't workshopped with the community. Our bid process was aimed very much at getting an outcome, but an outcome that was on the terms of our values as the partners at the time of that bid process. And it was very pleasing to see that those values were reflected in the community consultation. But then coming into the themes that are set out around sport, health and inclusion, around connecting people and places, around a better future for our environment, and around economy of the future, all of those themes articulated different aspects of those 14,000 suggestions. They could all be aligned with some element of those strategies. So ultimately, seeing that mission about seeing a better region sooner together through sport, that was the ultimate thing that underlay the whole process.
Absolutely, and we're going to go to the mission and the vision now, and it certainly resonates really strongly with me. You know, to make our region better sooner together through sport, as you said, and then the vision by 2042, we will live in an inclusive, sustainable, and connected society with more opportunities in life for everyone. Minister, what really stands out to you there?
I guess that it is around understanding that while we all want to see good things, doing better things in our community happen, and you know, government from a point of view, but everyone should all want to lean into doing that all the time. The real point around this is that how does hosting the world's biggest event help you do that? What more can it mean in terms of achieving that? Because these should be aspirations and things we want to do, you know, business as usual, as we have pointedly engaged and discussed at all points through this process. Business as usual isn't legacy. Legacy is something that would only happen as a consequence of this driver, or would only happen in a timely way, maybe more timely than it might have had otherwise. And that's where that you know, particular word of sooner comes into play in a big way in this conversation.
Absolutely, and Minister, you touched on the two legacy foundation pieces a bit earlier, and we look to them now. Did you just want to put a little bit more colour around both of those? I mean, as you say, they came out strongly during the bid phase. I think as we progressed this piece of work, many of the local governments were ahead of us. They'd already done a lot of their strategy work, which was great because we were hearing the same things. There was alignment. But talk to us a little bit more about these two foundation pieces. Well,
I think it's an easy conversation to have with this group, because I think DestinationQ as a high point for engagement with the visitor economy here in Queensland has been on this journey for a long time. The issues around making sure that we see the special place for our First Nations communities, and most particularly, their stories and their culture being at the forefront of engagement and opportunity and celebration, has been something that this audience has been engaging with and talking about, and living for a lot longer than other parts of the economy. So you understand that, and equally, and maybe not as for as long and extended a time, but it has been building, and certainly I think in this year of accessible tourism, the concept of making sure that accessibility, and most importantly, empowerment of people living with a disability, is something that can make the whole of our community, the whole of our economy, the whole of our society a better place. So those foundational points are touch points that I know this audience gets and understands, because you're leaning into it and living it, partly through your participation here. That's an endorsement of your connection with wanting to make a difference in this sort of space. And there's no question that the visitor economy is at the forefront in this space. You can do so much to help deliver on these foundation issues right across your activities, and then see how that bleeds right across all the rest of as I say, the community, the economy, and the society.
Yeah, and I think the really pleasing bit about both of these foundation pieces was that they were, tried and tested with people with a lived experience. So, and we've heard the importance of that. Let's dive into a couple of these themes. Well, when I say a couple, we're going to actually do all of them just to manage your expectations. But new to it, bear with me. Now, sport, health and inclusion, 3 focus areas, as you can see there: an active and healthy lifestyle, a high-performance sports system, and equity in sports participation. Minister, these are big things. The theme includes aspirations around healthier population, increased equity of participation of sports, developing the next generation of elite athletes, para-athletes, coaches, officials, and volunteers. Really broad. What are your aspirations for this theme, or in this theme?
Well, I think one of the things that came through the consultation process, you'd be surprised to hear that when people were being consulted about how the Olympics and Paralympics made a difference, that sport came up as a topic. We're all shocked by that. But it was something that that people do want to see come through and see as I'm a little bit biased as the Minister for Sport, as well as the Minister for Tourism. I do think that sport and recreation plays a huge opportunity in making a difference in our communities. And then there is that opportunity of high performance and where that can lead people and where they can take people. But fundamentally, the biggest thing that can make a difference for all of us in all of our communities in every way is people living more active and healthy lifestyles, people having a greater level of social engagement and opportunity, and sport provides a great platform for that. It's not the only platform, but sport and recreation plays a great opportunity for that. So what we can do to make that more accessible to more people and give a better opportunity for better experiences, and not just necessarily as, not everyone wants to be like this sort of 53-year-old who still runs around on a basketball court, but for people, for volunteering and things like that. And that's where one of the ideas that's been floated through this process is around a volunteering passport and how we can get more people volunteering in more ways, not just necessarily in sport, but volunteering in more ways, and use that as your entree to something highly desirable like volunteering at the world's biggest event. There's a lot of people line up and want to be a volunteer at the Olympic and Paralympic Games. But let's say to people now, well, your access point for doing that is by demonstrating that you're willing to volunteer in your community in the lead up to that, not just at that one time, but how do you contribute? And that then delivers a great platform for social engagement, but also supporting good things for a whole lot of people as well.
Yeah, great point, Minister. Now we go to connecting people and places, that theme. A more connected and accessible South East Queensland came through, creating more great places and precincts and celebrating First Nations cultures, languages and stories. Aspirations here included local and regional connectivity, improvements to transport infrastructure, digital connectivity really came through, universal design principles to improve precincts and places, more affordable and accessible housing, a very hot topic. A lot to cover in this theme. It's probably the biggest, deepest theme in a lot of ways and quite broad. Maybe can you talk a little bit on how celebrating the First Nations culture, languages and stories, what those unique opportunities for the tourism sector? And we've heard a little bit about that, but...
Well, the thing I want to focus on a little bit in this before we then go into mention that particular point is I think the most familiar thing in this that makes the most sense to the most people, and particularly people involved in our visitor economy get this, is that creating great places and precincts can be transformative. And I think we've got lived experience in the state of global events having driven different outcomes in that regard. And I'll go back. Let's look at the sort of different legacies from different things. A lot of people mightn't realise, but the electrification of the rail system in southeast Queensland was effectively done for the 1982 Commonwealth Games. So that's a legacy that... would we still be in diesel trains? I don't know. Andrew, can you answer that? No, maybe. I don't think so. But it happened sooner because of that driver. But more particularly, let's think of a great example of a great visitor experience that we have in the state in South Bank in Brisbane, which is a legacy effectively of the World Expo in 1988. How we design and make sure that we have places that deliver, but not just post the event, which is what the thinking was in that era, but this legacy, this Elevate 2042, has this vision of how we can see those benefits accrue before the event and certainly after. So what does a reimagined Gabba precinct look like, and how does it contribute to the broader visitor economy? How does it contribute to housing? How does it contribute to designing itself to be a space and place to be used for the future? And take that same vision and thinking into every place that is being revisited as a consequence of the Olympic and Paralympic Games and the other things that we want to achieve on the way through. But also thinking about how we can embed the celebration and connectivity that's celebrated by thousands of years of history and connection into those conversations, so that those places take advantage of using traditional connection and song lines. It takes advantage of language in the naming conventions and in the way in which people connect and guide. But we also, fundamentally, we design those places universally. We've had that discussion in the last session. There's no question that we want to make sure that anything that we do in that space that helps people connect and enjoy these great new places and precincts is done in a way that's universal.
Brilliant. Our third theme, a better future for our environment. Focus areas being caring for country together, maximising sustainability benefits, protecting and regenerating habitat and biodiversity, and accelerating the transition to renewable energy. Again, another weighty theme. Minister, things like the low carbon future, those aspects. What are the bits that really jump out at you here?
Well, I guess this is another great example of how we see the opportunity to use the event to accelerate things that we're on the path to already, but not just that. I mean, we have, here we go, I'll go into the government speak for just a moment and talk about how excited we are as the government around our energy and jobs plans and what that transition of decarbonising our state's economy looks like, and what that will provide in terms of a great platform for our future. But there are elements in this where we see this through the lens, one, of caring for country, of engaging it through a different perspective to help inform a better way of managing our environment and working with our environment, and sharing our environment with the globe. But particularly, I focus on the opportunity that the circular economy represents through these opportunities, and doing the development of the projects that we need to help make that's going to deliver on the broader things like the connectivity and people, precincts and places, that can happen in a way that doesn't create more impact on the environment and a carbon footprint that's not minimised.
Absolutely, and it's one of those key planks of the IOC's new norms. So certainly a focus area. Now, final theme: economy of the future. So advancing our global image and identity, made in Queensland, growing local and small business, advancing equitable economic participation, encouraging innovation, future jobs and sectors, fostering arts, culture and creativity. Big area again. Obviously, the economic outcomes are often thought of first in these big mega events, which is why they are seen to be something worthy of pursuit. Minister, what here really jumps out at you as an opportunity?
Well, as I said from the outset in my comments about the opportunity, that placeholder, that being the host city, having the host city of an Olympic and Paralympic Games means in terms of global profile. So advancing that global image and identity, turning it from just being a recognition of a place to a deeper understanding of who we are and what our values are, and the experiences that are on offer for people to share here. And not just the physical beauty, but the cultural depth and openness of our people to share that really strongly. All of those things that we know, that you all know, are the great reasons why your experiences that you provide to your visitors are things that they really value and enjoy and want to share further with more around them. This puts us onto the platform to share it genuinely with the actual very, very significant global on a very significant global stage. So taking advantage of that, number one, and then every other opportunity from a tourism, but also from a trade, but also from a cultural development and arts development opportunity, all fall out of that conversation to start with.
Absolutely, Minister, that's brilliant. And I just want to step back, if we can, for a moment to the second foundation, so advancing accessibility and empowering people with a disability, and the importance of that. We've heard Dylan talk to the view that he's hearing other states wanting to engage more. He's applauded this state for being out in front of this particular topic. From what you're seeing around Australia, and you're obviously, you're very well read, so you also know what's going on around the world. How do you think Queensland is shaping up as it relates to this sort of foundation theme and how it looks over the next, now 19 years?
Yeah, well, I think this is one of the most exciting things because we can genuinely be at the forefront of a whole lot of things. And as Dylan very ably said earlier, is, we're not going to get everything right. We're going to make mistakes along the way, but how do we make sure we lean into the opportunity? And I want to sort of thank everyone who's participated in Destination Q for leaning into the possibility. I want to thank everyone who's engaged in the work that the government, the department, that TEQ have done in response to the Year of Accessible Tourism. I want to thank QTIC and the great work that Brett and his team have done to lean into the conversation. Indeed, all of the RTOs that are here, all of the businesses that have lent into that engagement and that genuine conversation. You've seen it with me, Andrew, at our CEO roundtables, where we get sort of the big end of the tourism industry town to sit down and talk to people with lived experience and share some of the understandings. The most important thing has been that willingness to engage, that willingness to ask the questions, the willingness to get it wrong in order to get it right. That's what we've got a really great opportunity to do with a wonderful target as to why we want to get it the best as we possibly can, when we literally do have, the world's biggest event coming, and part of that world's biggest event is the highlight event in terms of visibility and understanding of people living with a disability globally coming to our place as well. It's really just a no-brainer that we want to get this right and work really well. And as we've heard emphasised by Dylan and the panel earlier, it just makes huge business sense as well. It's the right thing to do, but it's the thing that's going to really grow, gain huge benefits for all of our products, and as a consequence, for the visitor economy here in Queensland.
Absolutely. Now, Minister, we've got a little where to from here. Obviously, a strategy is fantastic, but it's only as good as its implementation. Can you just touch on a couple of the key junctures as we move now to implementation?
Yeah, so the implementation is where we're headed into now. The phase is over a 19-year period. You can't, we're not going to be, we're not unhelpful enough to say that, oh, well, you check in back with us in 2042 and check whether we did anything. But we're equally not going to try and say that we can do everything and achieve all of the great outcomes that we'd like to achieve in the next couple of years as well. So we've got 3 phases of implementation. So there'll be an implementation plan that will be identified as Generation 1, which basically runs us from 2024 to 2030. And then, 2029. And then we have the second generation implementation plan, which sort of runs the idea of 2030 through to 2036. And then we have 37 through to 42 as our next phase of implementation, Generation 3. So the reality is that those different points of time are doing that. It's that pre, during, and post games phases of implementation that we want to design up and see what our ambition and intent is around each of those. The key things that come with that is that we need to have the resources to be able to make some of these things happen. Now, the Queensland Government will have a commitment. We're working with our friends in the Australian Government to make their commitment, but it's not just governments that are going to lean into this. If that was going to be the case, we wouldn't be able to do anything near the sort of broad ambition that we'd like to achieve. It's actually to look at the implementation opportunities, to look at the proposals and identify the ways in which everyone can lean in. Of course, we want to have government there helping spur that and inspire that. But we want to see local government where it's appropriate. I see the Mayor here and congratulate him again on his elevation. We want to see where local government in their own community can lean into and deliver on the legacy ambitions. We equally want to see philanthropy, global and local philanthropy, lean into the opportunities that are represented. We want to see corporate activity and engagement, and indeed businesses see the opportunity of where these ambitions align with their thinking and activity, and how can they lean into activities from a funding point of view as well. This isn't just about government doing things, this is about bringing the whole community on the journey, aligned with getting those really great outcomes while hosting the world's biggest event.
Yeah, thanks, Minister. And obviously, Towards Tourism 2032 strategy is right buried, nestled neatly inside Elevate 2042. Minister, thank you for your time. We've come into an end. Any final words that you wanted to share with the audience? I think we're about to do Happy Birthday song and a cake. We're not. Minister, any final words?
No. I guess what I will say, what I will reiterate, is that point that I just made, that this process of engaging with the opportunity that's represented by the world's biggest event coming to our part of the world is something for everyone. And think about, use Elevate 2042, and I encourage you to have a look at the document and understand those high-level ambitions. And there's some call-outs of some individual examples. I gave one earlier about the volunteer passport, but there's some call-out of some individual examples of some ideas. But look and think about how you not only can contribute something you'd like to see, but how can you contribute to delivering? How can you contribute to be engaging? As a business, as an individual, as someone who's going to influence those who are around you. We have a bit of one of the programs that we're really excited about that's delivering on that first theme around sport and the high performance pathway that we're very proud of is our Youth for 2032 program, which is identifying who the podium athletes can be in 2032. Trying to identify the Queenslanders to make sure that there's a good representation of Queenslanders with success at those home games. We've 505 in the last 18 months. It's been 505 young people have been identified in that program. A number of whom have been identified with out of one particular sport, but have been physically identified as being really suitable, both physically and mentally, for a different sport, and pursuing some stuff. There's some really interesting. A lot of great archers are going to come out of this. So that's just one little byproduct. But that program has obviously, that phrase of Youth for 2032 is really targeted, has been targeted and used around athletes and the young athletes who are going to be, not old decrepit people like Andrew and I at that stage.
Hey.
The thing that I like to turn that phrase around is turn it around back onto everyone and say, what are you going to be in 2032? How are you going to lean into and contribute to 2032? Might be as a volunteer, but it might be in what way is your business going to lean into its opportunity to live what 2032 means for the whole of the state. And that's certainly what Elevate 2042 provides, that platform for that engagement and opportunity. Thank you.
Minister, thank you for your time.